There is a third kind of problem, and this is the one I want to focus on today because I'm actually finding, A, it's extremely common amongst heart-centered practitioners like those of you on the call, and B, it's often called an unconscious block when it's not. This is very, very important business. This is the whole subset of issues of being out of alignment. It really is the least visible because we talk about it the least in many ways. There's no reason why we do. I just think it's our cultural moment, the fact that we don't talk much about this. But the fact is that we will get off course from our sense of ourselves, our values, our integrity, alignment, being congruent with ourselves. In other contexts, this is called authenticity, yeah? We get off course. We try things, and we find out it's not in alignment with who we are. It doesn't feel right. And so it's really useful to notice that there are a subset of issues that arise in business that are a result of getting off course. Sometimes this is really, really common, really, really obvious to us. Oh, I got off course. I'm not in alignment with myself anymore. Other times it's actually really, really sneaky, and I want to talk about that. But first of all, I want to say we all get off course. It's perfectly natural. We can't learn and grow without occasionally getting off course. And number two, it is possible to be in business for heart-centered practitioners in a way that is in full alignment with our values. And that's the big reframe. For some of us who are heart-centered practitioners, there's this impression of the skeeziness or sleaziness of business. There's a lot of reasons for that, and I have a longer lecture about it. It can feel weird to commodify, put a price on healing, for instance. That might not feel very good to us. Some of business practices that are out there are actually sleazy, and we wonder if we have to do them in order to be successful. There's a whole bunch of things about business which for heart-centered people can feel out of alignment. So I just want to reassure you, you can be successful in business and be in full heart-centered alignment. Sometimes we just need a little bit of new instruction and direction and reframing in order to discover how to do that. But it is totally possible. Having said that, when we do try and make ourselves do things that are out of alignment with ourselves, perhaps a very well-meaning coach told us we needed to do X, Y, or Z in order to achieve our goal, so we try to do it, and all of a sudden we're getting shut down, and we don't know why. And then we start to ask ourselves, do I have an unconscious block? Do I not have a real success mindset? That's a big one, right? Do you really have a success mindset? Is it too dangerous for you to have success? That kind of unconscious block diagnosis on the issue. But if what we are actually is out of alignment with ourselves and it doesn't feel good to us to do it, our inner wisdom will shut us down, particularly for heart-centered practitioners. Yeah? At some point, we may be able to make ourselves do it for a while. We'll try and make ourselves do that hard sell, upsell that we've been taught to do, for instance. We'll try and make ourselves do it for a while, but eventually the inner wisdom will shut us down. As I said, particularly for heart-centered practitioners who are kind of sensitive to issues of integrity. Yeah? I want to give you a few examples of this from my own personal life, because I've had this experience several times now, and mostly I get it in hindsight, but I have to say that I'm getting a little quicker and quicker on the learning, which is really useful. About 3 times over the last 3 years, I have attempted to redesign my website. Yeah, I get lots of understandable feedback from coaches that it's out of date, that it's not well designed, et cetera, et cetera. And they're not incorrect. They're quite right about that. And I will start to sit down, and I wouldn't do it, and I wouldn't do it, and I wouldn't do it. And I was getting very frustrated with myself about this. I've actually begun to engage on my redesign, and now I realize the reason why I wasn't able to do it before was because I wasn't ready. I didn't know what I wanted to redesign it for. But now that I've clarified some of my niche, now I kind of know what I want to say. And the work is coming really easily, rather than trying to force something. I'll give you another example. And this happens to all kinds of people who go to trainings or work with coaches who are quite right in saying that when you niche, everything's easier. We ought to niche. And if you don't know what I mean by that, don't worry too much about it. It's just developing a specific group of people that you serve and a problem that you solve for them. It's kind of all it is. And so people are put in a position, I have to choose a niche. They try and say, it doesn't really matter, just try this for a while. And they put something on, and something inside doesn't feel in alignment. They don't know what they want to niche in, but something inside knows it's not this. And you try and make yourself over and over again to do the niche, and you won't, because something inside says something's not in alignment. I actually have a solution for that, for people who are struggling with that issue. But that's for another conversation, for another day. And then finally, another experience that I had that many of you may have also had is investing a lot of money in business coaches who ended up having approaches to building business that weren't in full alignment with who I was and how I wanted to do it, but not understanding that was what was going on at the time, and giving myself a really hard time about not wanting it enough or not having enough of a success mindset to make it work. These were all issues of alignment. I'd gotten off course, and my inner wisdom was insisting that I not stay off course that long. And so my inner wisdom kind of shut me down. Now, the good news on the website and on the niche is that I sort of gave up on trying to do it and force it, and it finally resolved itself over time. My inner alignment, my inner wisdom didn't allow me to invest a lot of time and effort and work into things that just didn't fit, for which I'm very, very grateful. It's mostly in hindsight that I understand what happened, but it worked pretty well. It had a little bit of static at the time, but it mostly worked pretty well. In other ways, at other times, the misdiagnosis of issues of being out of alignment as unconscious blocks can actually really get us off course really seriously, because when we identify these issues as unconscious blocks when they're not, we get very discouraged. It's really, really discouraging. Now, I do want to say that there's no perfect being in alignment. There's no 100% anything. This is another one of the main emphases in my coaching, is that good enough is good enough. We want to be in alignment enough is really what we're looking for. We want to be able to try things and see if it turns out to be in alignment or not. So we need to have a little bit of tolerance for being out of alignment with ourselves, because it's a bit of fuel for growth, to be honest. And if we have to be in alignment 100% all the time, we just won't grow. Yeah? So we need a little bit of that, what they call grist for the mill, right? You need a little bit of stuff that isn't the perfect outcome for the learning. Sometimes, and this has been true for me, I don't wish it for you more than once or twice every few years, but getting really off course becomes really useful in finding out what the correct course is. The contrast ends up being the teacher. Oh, that's really not it. Now I know. Wow, good to know. And then you can go on course and feel really good about having found yourself again. in a way that you didn't know yourself before. Oh, I know this about me. This is really important. I wasn't even aware of how important this was to me. Now let's figure out how to do business in a way that makes that work. Because there's always another way in business to do something. There's always another way. So, I invite you to think about a situation in which there might be an alignment issue. Something that's got you down, something that's got you confused, something you've been trying to do but you're not kind of doing it. Just, kind of on manual, thinking about it consciously. Is there a possibility that there's something out of alignment? Some issue of integrity or principles or value that's important to you? Just feel into it, feel into the situation a little bit, and ask what you most want and value in the situation.